Several years ago, I was out on a month-long hike through the Rocky Mountains, and I was maybe a week or so into the hike. And I remember hearing some voices as I was coming down a mountain. And I looked back and I could see 3 people on mountain bikes, loaded up with bags, riding down the hill from behind me. And they were laughing and they were cheering and having a great time. I can't say the same for myself necessarily at the moment. And as they rolled down by me, I stepped to the side and let them go by. They said hello. And I stood there, my knees were killing me, my back hurt. I watched them roll out of view. And I thought, man, I need one of those things. What am I doing walking out here? These guys are flying by me on bicycles. And that was it. For me, I finished my hike, I went home, bought myself a mountain bike and some bags, and I started to replace my backpacking trips with mountain biking trips. And after going on a number of these trips in different places around the world, in Iceland and Oregon and around the US, I realized that traveling by bicycle was really the ultimate way to experience a place and its people. Nothing really comes close in my eyes, because it's travel at a human scale. It's not zipping by in a plane or a train or a car. Bicycling really lets you connect with the environment and to experience every contour and climb and curve through which you're biking, and makes you earn every mile. And it also allows you to meet the people in the areas through which you're traveling, because you're vulnerable when you're out there. And without fail, when you show up in a new city or a village somewhere on this contraption with these bags, people are going to ask you, what's this thing? And where are you from? Where are you going? And they're going to say, you got to check out this place up here, this road up here, or this campsite, or this mountain. And it's an incredible way to get to know not only a place, but its people. And you're free to explore on your own schedule as well. Last summer, I was riding across Europe with a friend, and he called me about 2 days before we were going to take off, and he said, we should probably come up with some kind of plan. And so we decided we were going to buy a map, and that was the end of our plan. We bought the map, had it shipped overnight, and that was what we set out with. Going on these trips, I started to realize that I'm probably at my happiest when I'm out sleeping outside and riding bikes and camping. And I wanted to share that experience with other people. And so I started by contacting friends and inviting them out on trips, overnight trips or weekend trips, going out to a state park to camp, and showing them one by one what it was like and sharing my passions for slow travel and kind of the joys that come along with it. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to share it with a larger audience. And I looked around to see who else was sharing their photos and their stories from bicycle travel and how they were doing it. And I came to realize that all the best stuff that was out there was on blogspot sites or WordPress sites or Tumblr pages or Flickr sites. It was all being done by independent people, just doing it because they loved it and they were passionate about it and they'd had meaningful experiences that they wanted to share. But they were all silos. There wasn't one place you could go and find all this inspiration and these photos and writings. And I started digging around and I came upon Cass Gilbert. He's a British photographer, cyclist, writer who's been traveling the world for the better part of 15 years, taking photos like this one here in Peru. And Cass has been assembling routes people can ride and gear reviews and the like, and sharing his stories and photos free of charge just because he loves doing this and he wants people to get out there. He's never asked for anything in return. And I discovered the Berg brothers, 3 brothers from a family farm in North Dakota, my home state, who wanted to raise some money for Habitat for Humanity. And so they set out naturally to ride from Alaska to Argentina on bicycles. They flew up to Alaska with pretty much no idea what they were doing, maybe not the right gear, and they started riding. And as they rode down the Pan American Highway through the Americas, down to Patagonia, they shared stories of people they'd met and the wonderful experiences that they had, like this one, sleeping in someone's barn. And as they shed pounds from their bicycles and their bodies, they shared those stories and photos in return. And all they asked was that you donate some money to Habitat for Humanity. And I found Logan Watts, who, along with his wife Virginia, has been riding around these beautiful remote places for the last several years, like here in Lesotho, and doing the same thing, sharing these incredible images and stories. And here Virginia's riding a man's horse while a local person is trying to ride her bicycle, looks like somewhat unsuccessfully, up this hill. And this is incredible stuff that people are putting out there free of charge. And this was really inspirational to me, to see all this great content being produced. And there really wasn't, as I said earlier, one central place you could go and find these stories and these photos and to learn about how to go about a trip like this. There were a lot of magazines writing about things like 10 ways to look more like a pro cyclist, or reviews of a $10,000 carbon fiber road bike that you might never really want to ride. But no one was doing this in the way that I thought it should be done. And so I decided to create a magazine based around this, and I called it Bunyan Velo. And I was also about to enter into another Minnesota winter, and if you've never been to Minnesota in the winter, you're lucky because it's dark and cold for 6 months. So you need passion projects to get you through, and this was my passion project for that winter. Everyone has a hobby. So here's a peek at Bunyan Velo. I contacted all these people like Cass Gilbert and the Berg brothers, and I asked them if they'd write stories for me. And I contacted friends who'd quit their jobs and gone writing around the world, and I said, here's my idea. I know just enough about editing and design and writing to be dangerous, and I can promise you'll never get rich or famous if you do this for me, but I'll do my best to make something beautiful that we can all be proud of. And I asked them to write essays based on their trips. I said, write an essay about what it's like to travel through an area alone where you don't know the language, or what it's like to travel through an area that's off the beaten path somewhere in Peru, or what it's like to carry all your belongings on your bicycle and on your back for a period of time. And the Berg brothers wrote quite beautifully that the remarkable thing about bicycle travel is that a bicycle and 3 bags held so little, allowing us to forever hold so much. And I really loved that line. And some of the things people wrote, I was just blown away by the quality of writing and the images people submitted to me. And incredibly, everyone agreed to write for me. Even though I promised I couldn't pay them anything, they wouldn't get rich, they wouldn't get famous. But I worked with about 15 different writers and photographers over the course of several months to help them edit their stories and craft their pieces and edit their photos. And after a few months of work, we went live, and I published it digitally on issue.com, so as a digital magazine, free of charge, just as they'd all shared their content free of charge. And there was no budget for social media, no push. I just published it and put it up there early in the morning. I thought maybe that's the end of the project. It was fun. It got me through the winter, moving on to the next thing. I knew if nothing else, my mom would think it was amazing, and my friends would like it. So I went out for a long run, came back a couple hours later, and checked my inbox, hit refresh, and it was just overflowing with emails from all around the world. People had somehow found it in those 2 hours. People had written me from, I think the first email was from New Zealand. Someone said, I've always wanted a magazine like this. Thank you so much for making it. You've inspired me to go somewhere cycling on my next holiday. And people wrote me and said, here's my story. Will you share it for me? And people said, congratulations. And the emails really haven't stopped coming in since. And that was about 2 years ago. I went on Facebook and on Twitter and found the same thing. A couple of days later, I looked at a certain travel news website, and they had written that Bunyan Velo's headquarters is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I had to laugh because headquarters was me and my laptop at a coffee shop. And by the end of the first day, over 30,000 people had viewed it. This project I made just for fun, just to really share passion with friends and like-minded people. Now I'm 4 issues in. It's still free, and the most recent issue has been viewed about 2 million times, which just surpasses any dreams I ever had for this project. And I think it's important to continue this project because, for me, I think it helps to break down barriers to bicycle touring. It helps show that the world is not a scary place, and there's a lot out there in these areas for which the guidebook has yet to be written. And you don't need to be in the best of shape. You don't need to have the nicest bike to go out and have an amazing experience. And you don't need to ride around the world to have a life-altering experience and to really have a fresh perspective after a bicycle trip. So going forward into the future, I'm working on a 5th issue now to be released later this month, still for free, trying to raise some funds to do a coffee table book through Kickstarter, and working on a way to hopefully someday be able to quit my job and do this full-time instead of on nights and weekends, and sharing these stories and the hundreds of others that are waiting to be shared just like it with a larger audience. And so lastly, just in closing, I'd like to ask everyone here to take a moment and go explore bunyanvelo.com. Maybe you'll find something that inspires you to go on a little adventure of your own. And maybe that's just riding around the city on a city bike, as I did for the first time this morning to get here. It was kind of crazy. Or maybe it's going off on a multi-year adventure somewhere around the world. And when you do, get in touch, send me an email, and share your stories with me. Thank you.